Hi, I'm Nicole from Hello the Future, and today we're going to talk about the $100 Startup Chapters 5 and 6. By the way, this Thursday there is a $100 Startup Meetup in Los Angeles. More information down there with all the links, including a link to buy this book. That would be great if you did, because it's a very good book. Chapter 5, The New Demographics. Alright, so Chapter 5 basically says, prior to the dawn of the internet, lo these, I don't even want to know how many years ago. We're going to say older than I am. I think that's still right. Anyway, prior to the dawn of the internet, and certainly prior to the dawn of Web 2.0. Are we up to Web 3.0 yet? I do not think so. Prior to the dawn of the internet, demographics were pretty much summed up in the old ASL, that is to say age, sex, and location, and that worked just about as well as for selling things as it did for internet dating. But since Web 2.0, marketers can now target audiences based on interests. So, I think you know that means just about as well as I do. The way this applies to Hello the Future, interestingly enough, is that when I started out, I did some research into interests that had not yet been turned into songs, which is actually the very first step that Chris Guillebeau says. Now that I'm looking back at my notes again, the very first step that Chris Guillebeau says is to find a popular hobby, passion, and or craze, if you're looking to find an interest group, to whom you can sell things. Not that it's about selling things, it's totally about selling things. So when I started Hello the Future, I looked at what other geek musicians were doing. I looked at songs, of course, about, Battlestar Galactica. I looked at a lot of songs about monkeys and robots, and I even wrote one of those myself. But I did notice that no one was really writing any songs about webcomics, which was a shame because webcomics are awesome. And so I wrote a bunch of songs about webcomics. And as you know, I'm sure you know this because you've been watching every single video I've put on the YouTubes for the past 2 years, as you know. That is how Hello the Future got her start. The songs about the webcomics tapped into an interest group that wasn't really being served. And because of that, I started getting invited to conventions because I was the girl who wrote the songs about the webcomics, and then that was cool. So that is how Hello the Future got started. And in that case, as sort of skeevy as it sounds, this piece of advice works. If you're looking to jump on to an existing interest group, whether it be geek music or anything else, it would behoove you, my internet friends, to take a look at what other people are doing and find something that is adjacent to what they're doing, but perhaps has not yet been tapped. The other thing that Chris suggests in this chapter, once you have found your interest group, once you have found the part of that interest group that has not yet been tapped, and once you are tapping it, he suggests you ask them directly, what would you like me to provide for you? Because you can come up with a bunch of ideas on your own, and, as you know, I've written a lot of songs, and many of them people like, and some of them no one likes but me. And I've also made a couple of CDs, and as we've talked about in earlier editions of this $100 Startup vlogcast, some of my CDs have sold very well, and one of them in particular hasn't. So what Chris suggests, and what is particularly relevant to what I'm doing with Hello the Future right now, is to ask your audience, once you've established a bit of it, once you've figured out who your interest group is and how you are going to help them in a way that maybe other people aren't helping them, ask them directly, what do you want? What needs can I fulfill? He says, for some examples, ask, is there a class that you can teach, that people want to learn more about? Is there something that you can blog about that people are interested in reading about which they are interested in reading grammar when? You get the idea. So that's what Chapter 5 is about. Chapter 6 is called the One-Page Business Plan. And I am not even going to talk to you about the One-Page Business Plan because Chris has put it on the internet and you can read it yourself. So, if you, again, follow my finger down to where all the links are, there's a link to the One-Page Business Plan. It takes you step by step through what you need to do to figure out what your business is, who you're marketing to, what you're selling, and whether or not your business is going to work, okay? Let's just give it to you straight. So it starts out with the basic questions. What will you sell? Who will you buy it? Or who will buy it? Who will you buy? Who will buy it? What will you sell? Who will buy it? What need does it fulfill? And then it starts talking about how will people pay, how often will people pay, what is the pay structure. It talks about overcoming objections. If people say it costs too much, what will you say? If people say they don't want it, those kinds of things. And it's one page and you fill in the blanks. And when you are done, you can take a look at what you came up with and see if it's something you actually want to do. And if you don't really want to do it, if you look at it and you said, this is not what I had in mind, then you can go back and fill it in again with a different idea. Alright, that is all for chapters 5 and 6 of $100 Startup. I'm doing chapters 7 and 8 next week. Please come back.